The Seahawks definitely will have their hands full, Myles. The opening night of the season in Seattle, Monday Night Football. Russell Wilson rides the Broncos back into town, and we still don't know who the quarterback is going to be for Pete Carroll's team. Here he is from yesterday talking about how the guy who's been number 2 throughout the process, who missed 5 days last week due to a COVID diagnosis, who missed his opportunity to start on Thursday night against the Bears in week 2 of the preseason. Can Drew Lock still catch Geno Smith? Here's Pete Carroll.
Yeah, I'm wide open for whatever happens. Geno's been the guy in the lead position the whole time, and I've protected that thought with, throughout. And he's done a really nice job. He's been very consistent. So we'll just see what happens. And there's 2 more weeks of practice too after this. So where the timeline, I had a set thought on what we would do with the timeline, but that got disrupted. And so we're going to use all the time we need.
Would you ever consider playing 2 quarterbacks at once, or is it?
That can happen. These guys are so even right now that that we have a lot of respect for both their play, and so. But I'm not thinking that way right now. I'm thinking of getting going and getting started, ready, rolling, and all of that. And Geno's in the mentality, has been in that mentality the whole time, and that was very much by design. I can go ahead and just call it, but I want to let the guys battle and let them show where they are and let us get as much information as possible. Geno's done a really good job of being in that position. His voice is solid. He's on point all the time. He's been very consistent with his work, all of that. And Drew has been really sharp. So it's. I know it's not supposed to be a good situation when you have 2 quarterbacks. It means you don't have one, as the old saying. But I don't know. We might have 2 ones.
There's a lot to unpack there, but allow me 30 seconds for a personal privilege here, because I'm 13 years away from.
No?
Well, no, but I'm at least being courteous.
Thanks.
I just wonder if you get to 70, going on 71, and again, I'm 13 years away from that situation. But if you have a full head of hair at that age, are you kind of flexing on all the bald guys when you just roll out of bed and not comb it? Like, hey, I don't care. It's there. I don't care what it looks like. I got it. And the rest of you 70-year-olds are either bald or wearing toupees. I don't know. I'm curious about that. And again, I aspire to still have it. Some would say, well, all you have to do is keep your toupee on your head and you will. But maybe I will just roll out of bed 13 years from now and not care if I comb my hair, because it's there. That's the only thing that matters at that point. All right, far more importantly, relatively speaking, to the hairdo habits of Pete Carroll and the fact that he still has it, does he have a number 1 quarterback? I like the fact that he's aware of the old cliche, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. That's kind of what he's teetering toward. Myles, you made the observation last night that if you were a Seahawks fan, the prospect of both guys playing would be enough to drive you to drink. I thought you already did. I guess you would drink more. But I don't know what to make of this. I still think he wants Geno Smith to be the guy. But
really?
I think deep down he does. But now I'm starting to think he's rooting for Drew Lock to overtake him. I mean, for weeks I thought he wants to go against Russell Wilson with Russell Wilson's understudy and have Russell Wilson's understudy beat Russell Wilson. But now I sense that he's still kind of hoping that Drew Lock wakes up and becomes the guy that maybe they thought he was going to be.
What do you mean thought he was going to be? I mean, okay. And it's funny I say this because, I like Drew Lock. I like his traits. That's something that, I have said since 2019 when I saw him play against the Raiders when I was covering the Raiders. And, I thought he did some good things. I think he has, some ability where if he's in the right scheme and if he's with the right offense and he's got the right weapons, then he can do some really positive things. But, I mean, I don't know. When you're talking about Drew Lock versus Geno Smith, it's well, what excites you more? Drew Lock versus Geno Smith or Drew Lock versus Teddy Bridgewater last year? These quarterback competitions just kind of make you say, I don't know. So, I mean, look, I kind of would like to see Drew Lock out there. I want to see what he can do. I just don't put too much stock into preseason football. So whatever he's been doing behind the scenes, maybe that's why Pete Carroll is kind of revving him up a little bit in those press conferences, maybe trying to give him a little bit more confidence as he goes into this week, since he was out, with COVID last week, and he was supposed to start that game. And when you have that opportunity and through no fault of your own, it really gets taken away from you. Like, that's kind of a tough thing to deal with. And Pete Carroll said he was really sick, so he comes back and we'll see what happens this week, I guess. But I don't know, man. Like, at least Pete Carroll even said it. Like, you got two quarterbacks, you really don't have any. I firmly believe that. And right now they really do kind of have two backups, but we'll see what happens. And if Drew Lock can go out there and be successful, or if Geno Smith can, I guess. I don't.
And it could just be that Pete Carroll is choosing to be optimistic with Drew Lock, so that if Lock doesn't get it done, it's not because he didn't sense that the coaching staff had faith in him. It's not because he believes he didn't get a fair opportunity. I keep thinking back to last year, though, because both Smith and Lock entered the season as backups, and they both eventually got a chance to play. And when Smith got his chance, he ran with it. Thursday night, Russell Wilson all of a sudden out with a busted finger. They're chanting Geno Smith's name. It came down to a final drive, and he threw an interception, but the receiver fell down. Geno Smith was doing everything he could to try to beat the eventual Super Bowl champion LA Rams in primetime, thrust into the game without a moment's notice. Drew Lock when he finally got a chance, it wasn't good. And Vic Fangio, then the coach of the Broncos, said so. And I wonder how conscious Pete Carroll is of that. Now, I'm not suggesting that Carroll would say, well, Geno Smith would be better as a backup then when we need him, but it's more about who can you really trust to embrace everything about the job, be consistent. That's been Drew Lock's biggest problem. He hasn't been consistent. I remember the Buzz Lightyear game against the Texans when I'm thinking, this guy is going to be a star back in 2019, his rookie season. And it's up and it's down, and he gets injured, and he's not consistent. And Geno Smith I think Pete Carroll errs on Geno Smith because he is the perfect example of what Carroll wants. A try-hard guy, busts his ass, accepts the system, does everything that's requested of him, and is ready to go at a moment's notice, and now is ready to step into the top job. That's why I feel like Smith has the edge. And hey, if you would go with two guys, I remember vaguely when Steve Spurrier tried that during the year or so that he was the coach in Washington. It really undermines the notion of having a leader, of having your guy. Hell, it's why the Patriots cut Cam Newton last year when they decided to go with Mac Jones. You don't want the locker room to be confused. You don't want it to be divided. You don't want any misunderstanding as to who the leader of the team is. But, Myles, from a schematic standpoint, from a preparation standpoint, there isn't an advantage in forcing every defense to be ready for both guys and to not know when each one's going to come in, and just use both of them. Now, if your offense, if the rest of your offense is comfortable with the idea that they're going to be catching passes from one guy this drive and another guy the next drive, and who knows who the drive after that. But there is an advantage as it relates to the pressure it puts on each of your opponents.
I don't know. I mean, what the Panthers did this last year speaking of Cam Newton, they put Cam Newton in there, and then like PJ Walker was sometimes playing, and then like Sam Darnold comes back, and sometimes it was Cam Newton, sometimes it was Sam Darnold. Did that help them? No, because neither of those guys are particularly great quarterbacks anymore. And I say that with apologies to Cam Newton, because I know he was an MVP in 2015, but at this point, that's a long time ago, especially in NFL years. So I firmly believe in the saying that if you have two quarterbacks, you have two backups. You need somebody who's your guy. You need somebody who everybody can rally around. You need somebody who people know, okay, if I need a throw on 3rd and 7, this is who we're looking to. I think it sort of undermines everything you're trying to do when you don't have somebody who is your set QB1. Whoever wins that competition wins that competition, but they need to have a winner of that competition, because you cannot go into week 1 against the Broncos. I mean, you don't even have to tell everybody else who your starting quarterback is going to be. I mean, Pete Carroll can do whatever the hell he wants and say, I don't know. It could be Geno Smith. It could be Drew Lock. And we could be doing that all the way up until that Monday night game. I don't have any problem with that as long as the people who need to know exactly who the quarterback is, because you cannot go into the season without knowing who your quarterback is. It's not a good situation.
And that's a college football approach that can work in a college football town where the head coach is the emperor and everyone's afraid of him and nobody will talk. I think it's virtually impossible to keep that under wraps. Somebody on that team is going to tell somebody who's going to tell somebody, and we're going to know who's getting the first team reps, unless they decide to split the first team reps and keep everybody in the dark. But I think part of this is just Pete Carroll is wired to never dismiss anything. Oh, yeah, I'm up for anything. Yeah, anything's possible. Yeah, we'll go with 3 quarterbacks. Jacob Eason, too. Yeah, anything's possible. And I think it is part of the cat and mouse game, even though they're more mouse than cat when the Broncos come to town. But it is part of this effort to just keep people guessing as to what you're going to do, because right now you don't know. And that underscores the point. After 10 years of Russell Wilson being the unquestioned starting quarterback, people say, and I remember this at the time, how brave Pete Carroll was to go with the rookie Russell Wilson instead of Matt Flynn when they gave him $10 million guaranteed, when $10 million guaranteed was a lot for a quarterback. Well, no, it was a no-brainer. Everybody knew. Everybody who was at practice knew that Russell Wilson was clearly the better option. There was nothing brave about it. The brave thing would have been to stick with Matt Flynn after everybody saw that Wilson was the better candidate. Clearly, we're not at that point. Both guys are still vying for the job, and one of them, we think, will be the starter when week 1 rolls around, although you never know what ultimately is going to happen. And the good news is they both have each other's back. This isn't a situation where you have to clear out the guy who doesn't win the job, like the Patriots had to do with Cam Newton. Geno Smith has said very positive things about Locke. Locke has said positive things about Geno Smith. They really are in this together, and I think they realize. In a competition like this, I've said this time and again, when you win the job week 1, you also win the right to be the first guy benched. Because how many times have we seen, now Teddy Bridgewater never really got benched last year, he got injured, but you always see the second guy play at some point.
And in a situation like this, yeah. But Mike, I mean, you keep trying to drive a wedge between these two guys on this team, and I'm not going to do it. So you can quit asking.
I'm not trying to drive a wedge, Nick. I'm not. I like a good story, and there's nothing better than the idea that both guys would play week 1. I mean, think about that.
That's not a good story. It's just bad. It's not good. No, I refuse to go along with that.
Bad football, good story. Bad football, good story. Wouldn't it be something if they used both quarterbacks and beat Russell Wilson?
No.
That would be a hell of a Tuesday morning while you're sound asleep out there somewhere in the Los Angeles area, and Sims and I are breaking down what happened. If it's Geno Smith and Drew Lock, each completing, 10 of 20 passes and the total team effort, and they beat Russell Wilson. I wish they were playing that game later. That's just too good of a game to play right out of the gates, because we really don't know anything about the teams. I thought it would be like a week 4. I thought it would be a perfect week 4 game, just like Brady back to New England last year. Let the season, to get a little sweat going on the season before you have a game like that. But either way, Seahawks, they got to jump right into the deep end of the pool, and we don't know who their quarterback's going to be. Could it be Jimmy Garoppolo? Who knows? There's still that thought out there that at some point the 49ers are going to cut Garoppolo, and maybe the Seahawks at that point will say, hey, this guy's better than the 2 we have. I don't know what the saying is. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. What if you have 3 quarterbacks? Who knows?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.